although none of them showing at the moment, with the first 40 seconds of the session gone already. There are some 14 cars that will be setting their grid position for the race to come a little bit later. Nico and Dave here to bring you all the action through qualifying and to ascertain who will be going from where when it comes to that race a little bit later. We're looking down from turn number 3 as Eric Chung is in preparation. Corina Chung, Eric's wife and partner, alongside, ever present alongside Eric. Good morning. Eric, of course, who finished the Misano races last time out for the Ferrari Challenge in a less than desirable style when he had a coming together with this driver, von Skelterma, which was regrettable. It was just one of those racing incidents, and unfortunately both Fons and Eric then their teams respectively with quite a lot of work to do to get the cars ready and out again for this weekend. But credit to Kessel Racing and also Formula Racing for achieving just that. And there you can see the shark's teeth that adorn just about anything of von Skelterma's. It's become one of his trademarks. And this is John Dillon, UK-based racer who's racing not only in the European Series but also the UK Series of the Ferrari Challenge, which will be on track next weekend in Alton Park in the UK. John very much doing a dual campaign of racing, and a driver that, in my opinion, Nico, has richly deserved a podium and hasn't quite got there, often through no fault of his own. We'll see if he's able to right that wrong this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think of all the categories here in the Ferrari Challenge Europe, Coppa Shell is easily the most competitive. We have seen instances already this year, and we're only 4 races in and 4 qualifying sessions in, where drivers have literally been 10 of them within 5 or 6 tenths of a second. So really, really close, and one mistake in qualifying can put you from row 1 to row 4 or row 5, and that is a huge difference as Paolo Scudieri is going through his preparation.
Paolo Scudieri, race winner, it has to be said, in the very first race of our 2023 campaign. He took victory in race 1 in Valencia. Well done, Paolo. He drives, of course, for the Saman car team. And he, though, is a Shell AM driver, so we'll be seeing him in the second half of our qualifying. There's Pino Frascaro, who is another one of the enigmatic characters of which the Ferrari Challenge has so many, Nico. And I have to say, and we were talking yesterday with our, of course, you're listening to the English language. We broadcast, of course, around the world. Of course we do. And we were talking yesterday to our German colleague. You, of course, speak German as well, but our German-speaking colleague in terms of comms for the Ferrari Challenge. And he was just doing something that we always do, and that's extolling the virtues of the friendliness of the paddock and the drivers and the competitors. Absolutely.
And Oliver, you're probably driving back to Munich as you will commentate on the races later on from your broadcast hub, and drive safely. Don't drive your 488 Challenge road car. No, okay, fair enough. Don't drive too fast. We need you in the comms booth for a German audience for the race later on. But we are here in the qualifying session for the moment. English language for the time being. Ingvar Madsen within the 199 car.
At last, Nico, dare I say, at last Ingvar Madsen is back. But not only that, at last we have got a car on track. That being the car of Christian Herdwieper, who goes around. Thankfully holds on to it. Cold tyres, of course, Nico, and Christian Herdwieper able to control that and getting the car pointing in the right direction once again. So German driver is Christian Herdwieper, and a very, very good driver as well, although his results so far this year not showing the same promise that he showed towards the end of last year, if I can be honest with you. Christian, perhaps he will put that right this weekend. We will see.
Yeah, another promising start, but fortunately no impact, and therefore continues everything okay. And he can just get up the road and on his way. Everything that was shattered maybe with a little bit of confidence, but not the integrity of his car. And you can see he's going through the paces again, setting himself up for quick lap times. interestingly, quite a lot of drivers already out, not many drivers staying in pit lane. Obviously, the fact that this quali session only being 20 minutes long means the drivers have less time to stall and wait around. It is a quick and very, very sharp qualifying, and Corinna Gostner also very quick.
As Sly and the Family Stone said, it's a family affair, and it is a family affair for the Gostners, because you have Manuela Gostner, you have Corinna Gostner, and you have Thomas Gostner, all racing in Coppa Shell. David Gostner is the only one that chooses not to race. Well, say chooses, it doesn't race in Shell, he races in Trofeo Pirelli, but the four-strong Gostner racing family who have been such a part of the Ferrari Challenge for so many years. And there you can see father Thomas leading this young lady, Corinna. And Corinna and Thomas then into turn number 3 as you continue to climb uphill as you make your way around that right-hander. It's a very, very interesting circuit, this Spielberg Circuit. And as we said, the first and second sectors contain the fast bits. Then it is really, really windy and technical and downhill as well. You'll hear it described as roller coaster-like, and I think that's very fair to say. Where that becomes critical in terms of qualifying, Nico, is when you've got some 14 cars out there on track all at the same time, and you're on a hot lap and you're trying to find track space. It's very difficult, particularly over the final sector between turns 7 and 10, and perhaps even the second part of the second sector, to keep out of anyone's way if they're on a hot lap, to try and give them room to continue. Roger Grols, you can see there. Once again, we zoom in on the Gostners, Thomas and Corinna. Heading around now to complete a lap. At the moment, the fastest driver is Christian Herd-Wieper. He's the first one to put a time on our screen, but expect times to come from the likes of Roger Grols and Corinna and Thomas Gostner as well. And we should also say a big welcome back to Ernst Kirchmeier, who we will be seeing out on track shortly. Here's John Dillon then. It was he that I was explaining earlier on is, in my opinion, overdue for a podium, and John Dillon for Great Wall Nottingham with his dual campaign of racing across the UK and Europe. And he was saying in one of the many conversations John and I have is, you know, nothing beats seat time, Dave. The longer you can be in the racing car seat, the better you will be. And that, I think, is fair to say, and you may choose to disagree, as you often do, but I think we're seeing that in the way that John Dillon's racecraft has really, really improved over the years.
I would never challenge that, because that is absolutely spot on. It's pretty much everything that you say. It's going to be interesting what livery Ernst Kirchmeier will sport on his car, because he was the Hornet previously, and let's see, which brings back very fond memories of previous years for everybody except my dear Connie. The Gostners going through Sector 2 here, and it's exactly as you described. This is really the part where if you come up, hopefully not, on slower traffic, this is really where it's very difficult for anybody to get out of the way and anybody on a quick lap to get past without compromising the lap. Spielberg is kind of that circuit which is designed in the secrets of sectors in the perfectly unhelpful way for a driver, because the spaces where you can overtake are in the very beginning of the lap, where you don't know if your lap was going to be compromised, and then it always bites you towards the end. Well, nobody bit the Gostners. They put it onto P2 and P3 on the last time around. And lo and behold, it's already half-time of this qualifying session. Where did the time go?
I've chosen to redact my resignation.
Good.
Following the buzzing warning. Comparison of previous liveries. So Christian Herd-Wieper, back on script, Dave. Christian Herd-Wieper is fastest so far with a 1:33.130. Remind me, the fastest time in Trofeo Pirelli, I think we were into the 1:29s, Nico. Now, oftentimes the Coppa Shell drivers perhaps quite reaching the lofty heights of our Trofeo Pirelli times, but we are expecting arguably a better time than a 1:33 to come from our Shell drivers. We will see if they are able to do that. One that's got close is Christian Kinch, who's just gone second fastest, Nico, with a 1:33.428. So he's beginning to trouble Christian Herdvipper right at the top of the chart at the moment. We will watch. We've not yet seen a meaningful time from the likes of the entertainer, Mr. Axel Sartingen, who is he's out there certainly. He's currently posted 11th fastest time, and Willem van der Vorm is also someone to keep an eye on, Nico, in terms of the time that he's able to put on the board within the next 9¼ minutes. That's all that's remaining for these drivers for qualifying.
Absolutely. And now you will have the list of all the drivers to not watch out for. That was the list. All 14 of them really, really good drivers. Everybody really competitive, and you can make a case for every single one on the grid to put it onto the first or second row at the minimum.
Okay.
I mean, Alexander Nussbaumer who was a second ago, up to P7, then von Skeltemer. I mean, expect improvements from every single driver, including Christian Kinch, who's just 100ths down after the second sector. He is up on traffic, but I do believe that the traffic in front of him, which is the Willem van der Vorm car, is actually not slow traffic, is always going for a quick lap, and that may actually help a little bit
Indeed.
on the final straight. When it offers a little bit of a slipstream, we will see Christian Kinch just relegated to P8 in absence, almost, but he will try and put it all the way up into P1. It's almost there, P2, 2 100ths and 2 1000ths off the pace.
If I may say, no, you may not. But if I may say, when I was discussing with Christian yesterday, as he lounged in his garage, I felt he was supremely confident. We will see what he can deliver. But this man is quick. Von Skeltemer with a purple sector, sector 1. Now, purple means he's gone quicker than anyone. And somebody that has also done that is Ernst Kirchmayr, making his return into the Ferrari Challenge here this weekend. Well, von Skeltemer, purple sector 1, purple sector 2. Ernst Kirchmayr is a 1:32.504. That's 2 100ths quicker than the previous best time from Christian Kinch, but this looks like it's going to be a good time from von Skeltemer from Kessel Racing, Nico.
Great onboard shot as well. This is probably the only vantage point where you can't see the shark's teeth on the car, but you can see exactly where von Skeltemer is aiming his car. He is going for that timing line, 1:32.504, 1:32.217, P1, von Skeltemer, provisional pole.
Well done to the Dutchman then. He has gone P1 ahead of Ernst Kirchmayr, Christian Kinch and Axel Sartingen. Then it's Eric Jung, Thomas Gostner, Christian Herdvipper, Willem van der Vorm, Alexander Nussbaumer, John Dillon, Corinna Gostner, Manuela Gostner, Ingvar Madsen and Roger Grols. Currently at the bottom end of the timing screen, which you would never expect to see that. And now the times, they are tumbling down. Manuela Gostner, for a mere second, was at the top of the chart because it got beaten by this man as he crossed the timing line, Ernst Kirchmayr, with a 1:31.637. Ernst Kirchmayr and Christian Kinch now with a 1:31.852. We've only got 3 drivers in the 1:31s. They are Kirchmayr, Sartingen and Kinch. Von Skeltemer, who momentarily was at the top of the chart, is going for it again, Nico, with a purple sector through sector 1. Willem van der Vorm has exceeded track limits at turn 10. That means that the hot lap that he's on currently will not count. He's going to have to go again. Von Skeltemer is going for it here, Nico. He's had the taste of that P1 position, and he wants to take that, but well pointed out, Nico. In sector 1, he's exceeded the track limits, so this lap is not going to count for von Skeltemer. And that's a blow.
That's a blow, and that is exactly this minuscule mistake which can be the difference between P1 and P7 potentially. Alexander Nussbaumer, boom, 1:31.541. That is a new provisional pole. We have personal bests all across the board, purple sectors all across the board. Everybody's going for it. 5.5 minutes. It's anybody's guess who is going to come out on top of this qualifying session. I'm not going to put my money anywhere on any driver, or rather against any driver, because they're all so supremely quick. Von Skeltemer is going again. First sector after that one. It's not as good as the previous one. It's still good. That was a little bit of a sideways moment, which didn't help his course, but he is still going. You can see that part between turn 3 and turn 4. It is going downhill. There is the Alexander Nussbaumer car. He is currently in P1. Good showing. Obviously, the Austrian, he knows this circuit extremely well. There is von Skeltemer going by, and you can tell by the speed difference that Alexander Nussbaumer is not on a hot lap.
He's lifted, hasn't he? He's content at the moment, but he shouldn't be too content, Nico, because he's only P1 by 9/100ths. So we will see. We will see who will develop over the remaining 4.5 minutes. Time is running out, and it's running out for the likes of Roger Grols, who you could just see in the back of the shot there. Here comes von Skeltemer again. Now, his sector times on this occasion have not been quite as blistering as they have been in the past. Here is Axel Sardigan. He is a driver from Lueg Sportivo who's on a mission now. Sector 1, purple for the Hertha Racing engineered car of the Entertainer. Mr. Entertainment, Axel Sardigan then. Christian Kinch keeps well out of his way. Good gentlemanly driving there from Christian. He knew that Sardigan was on a hot lap. He kept as far out of his way as he possibly can. And Axel Sardigan, let's wait to see the Sector 2 time. It does go purple, Nico. He's 5/10ths down on cumulative lap time so far. This is a quick lap. And Manuel Agosta is also going for it. But it was only Sector 2, and Christian Kinch has got a track limit warning. Axel Sardigan, though, has got the final turn to do. And he will head towards the timing line. To the best of my knowledge, he's not done anything wrong in terms of track limits. And he goes P1 with a 1:31.329. Now, in terms of margins, that's 2/10ths up on Alexander Nussbaumer. That was a brilliant lap from Sardigan.
Absolutely, and we said before how competitive this is. The first 10 drivers within a second, and lots of those still aiming for an improvement. Alexander Nussbaumer just edged Axel Sardigan. No, Axel Sardigan's time actually has been disallowed due to a track limits in the final sector. We didn't see that. Didn't quite see it, but that gives the pole position back to this man, Alexander Nussbaumer. Not that he needs any help, because through 2 sectors he is again very, very quick, 3.5/10ths quicker than his own personal provisional pole time. One more turn to do. Not running too wide, not exceeding the track limits. He is heading for that timing line, and it is an improvement. Another 3/10ths, 1:31.241. Now he's 4/10ths up on everybody.
The battle of the Austrians continues between Alexander Nussbaumer and Ernst Kirchmeier, and the margin between them is just a shade. It's 4/1000ths under 4/10ths. The gap is 0.396. So here is Alexander Nussbaumer, who thus far has looked very, very strong here in Spielberg. He maintains that strength, but the car wobbles on the exit of turn number 3. That will have cost him some 100ths. Here's Willem van der Vorm with personal bests in Sector 1 and Sector 2. And it's Nussbaumer, Sardigan, then it's Kirchmeier. So Sardigan's last lap has counted, and he's got within 1/10th of Alexander Nussbaumer. So at the moment, it's a front row starting class for Axel Sardigan if everything were to stop right now.
Absolutely, and now slowly we can see that the Pirelli P0s have maybe given the drivers the best peak window for their fastest lap. Personal bests no longer spread it across our timing screen. Still improvements from some drivers, still quite a few of them which we would consider out of position. Von Skeltemer was P1 for large stretches, only down in P9, and we said it, that track limit excursion cost him so much. It may be the difference between row 1 and row 5 eventually. Axel Sardigan is very quick, only 8/1000ths off the pace after the first sector. So basically on even terms. We will see how he performs in the second sector, and we'll see that in just 3 or 4 seconds as he runs a little bit wide. That didn't help his course. And he's still there, he's still on equal terms. I mean, it's minuscule. Again, not quite the ideal line through there, but if there is someone who can make it entertaining and quick, it may be just this man, Axel Sardigan, Dave.
I agree with you, and he was, I think, 16/100ths up on the time of Alexander Nussbaumer. Now, I can't see any track limits warnings against Axel Sardigan for this particular lap, so he heads towards the timing line now. And he stays P2 because he lost time in that final sector and ends up just under 3/10ths down on Alexander Nussbaumer. But he can go again But this will be the last lap for Axel Sardigan in this qualifying, Nico.
Yeah, absolutely. We are watching him. We're watching our timing screen. Roger Grohl's one of those drivers who's also still going for an improvement. Sector 1 is going to be telltale for Axel Sardigan. It's purple once again, 4/100ths quicker than Alexander Nussbaumer. This is the final challenge, maybe for pole position. This is Roger Grohl's, the final challenge for an improvement from P8 up. The second sector not quite as good, but well, it's already 1.2 seconds, so I think that challenge has gone away. So it's Axel Sardigan pole or P2 is the question for the remaining minute or so. Here is our protagonist. Sector 2 will be significant. It's a point for pole position, but it's also especially the best starting point for the race later on. It's only 6/100ths.
Wow.
It's still tense. Again, he runs a little bit wide towards the exit, and that I don't think is necessarily the quickest line, but who am I to tell? Al-Kamel will tell us where the clock stops in just a few seconds.
So Axel Sardigan then, he's got the bit between his teeth. He wants that point for pole position. He wants the Rotiform pole position award. Is he going to do it? Now we will know as he heads towards the timing line. He does not do it. Alexander Nussbaumer is going to be pole position for Coppa Shell. Axel Sardigan will have a front row start. It's P2. Then it's Kirkmeyer. Chung. Good qualifying from Eric Chung. Then it's Manuela Gosner and Willem van der Voort, Christian Kinch, Roger Grohls, von Skeltermar, Thomas Gosner, John Dillon, Christian Herdwieper, Corinna Gosner, and Ingvar Madsen. Oh, that was a bit tense, as we expected it to be honest.
Absolutely, and Alexander Nussbaumer, best result this season thus far, P5. Great. And, you know, just to underscore how competitive we are, again, we've got 9 drivers within 1 second and 12 drivers within 1.222 seconds.
Get another 2 in there if you could. Alexander Nussbaumer, of course, was last year's Coppa Shell AM champion and elevated to Coppa Shell this year. And as we see Pino Frascaro jumping into his car, Manuela Gosner, she'll be, if I'm honest with you, a little bit disappointed with P5 in qualifying. I think it was track limits that did for her more than pace, Nico. But Claudio Garavini and his team are ruling this with a rod of iron with regards to track limits. There is confirmation of the classification. Alexander Nussbaumer, P1 ahead of Axel Sardigan and Ernst Kirkmeyer. Eric Chung, Manuela Gosner, Willem van der Voort, Christian Ginch, Roger Grohls, von Skeltermar and Thomas Gosner. They will occupy the first 5 rows of our Coppa Shell grid for race 1 this afternoon. And bringing up the final 4 places, John Dillon, Christian Herdwieper, Corinna Gosner and Ingvar Madsen. Confirmation of that on your screen right now. Pole position, he's back to where he probably should be, Alexander Nussbaumer, and by that I mean at the front of the pack. He'll be jolly, jolly pleased because, of course, it is relatively, Nico, a home gig for him.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, quite a lot of Austrian and German-based drivers.
Yes.
None of them have a really, really long trip here. This is our pole setter, Alexander Nussbaumer.
Last year's Coppa Shell AM champion, elevated to Coppa Shell this year, and he has delivered a 1:31, 2:41, and that will give him front row and P1 start for the race to come this afternoon. Track conditions, of course, at the moment are bone dry. Will that be the case when it comes to the race? As Manuela Gosner continues her walk along the pit lane then, and as I say, I feel that she'll probably think, you could see that just in the body gestures, couldn't you? As she walks back into the garage, she's a little bit disappointed with P5, and it was track limits. And there's one of our technical team there going through Parc Fermé, just taking a look at the cars and making notes, of course, as well. And there you can see the cars lined up to the left-hand side there. You can see the 109 car of Ernst Kirkmeyer, who is P3. And great to welcome him back to the Ferrari Challenge here in Europe this weekend. And Axel Sardigan, the entertainer, makes his way. As once again we see our pole-sitting car of Alexander Nussbaumer. In the end, it was a 10th and a bit that secured pole position for Alexander Nussbaumer with his time of 1:31.241. And Coppa Shell AM qualifying with Nico and myself will be live in 6 minutes time. So comfort break time for me, not so for Nico because he works studiously, you know. And we'll please rejoin us for Coppa Shell AM qualifying. That's going to be just as dramatic as Coppa Shell was, I'm sure.
Absolutely. See you in a few minutes. Welcome back. This is qualifying, and it's going to be Coppa Shell AM for the last of the 3 qualifying sessions of today. We obviously got a full set of qualifying sessions again for tomorrow, which will be for races number 2 in the afternoons. But after this qualifying session, we obviously will have races number 1 for Trofeo Pirelli and Coppa Shell this afternoon, starting at 2 p.m. we will have the Shell AM drivers, as I said, and that will be combined with the Shell qualifying we just experienced a few minutes ago. Combined into one grid, the Shell drivers will line up at the front and the Shell AM drivers will line up behind them. Roland Hürtner here in the car, and he's exiting his pit already. 20 minutes of qualifying session is underway, as you can see from the clock counting down at the top of your screen. Paolo Scudieri, everybody getting ready for this qualifying session. The M drivers will not have the benefit of a clear line of sight. Even the pole setter won't, because the Shell drivers will be ahead of them. But obviously, it is for that best possible starting position in the M's, which is going to come later on. Data being analyzed, engines being prepared, cars being prepared, setup is being done.
How is it? How is it, Nico? Explain to me how they can Ferrari can make a power plant a thing of beauty. Look at that.
It's
wonderful.
Like, it's the beating heart you can really, really make.
I was giving you a sound effect there to help you.
Yes.
Motohiko Isozaki, a super guy, and choosing to race in the European Challenge this year. Of course, has raced in our what was previously Asia Pacific Series, which is now the Japan Series, and yeah, he's a great driver. He really is, and a welcome addition to the paddock. That's for sure. Is Motohiko Isozaki, and one to watch as well. His best finish has been a P2 thus far, and that came in the second race in Misano. So he's only one step of the podium away from a P1. And there you can see Ernst Kirchmayr passing on his advice, Nico, to Christian Windlisberger. Windlisberger, have I pronounced that correctly? I hope so. The driver that's making his debut in the Ferrari Challenge this weekend. Oh, imagine having to sing a radio jingle for him.
Windlisberger?
Yeah.
Well, you're pretty spot on.
Oh, how unusual.
Oh, there is another nice sound effect. Indeed, there is obviously the Ernst Kirchmayr car, which has already done its job and propelled its driver to a pretty solid start position. Not pole position this time around, but a very good one for the returning driver.
We can see in the backdrop there the Lisa Clark car. Lisa Clark, a North American racer who will be, I think, racing not only here this weekend, but will be jetting back to Atlanta to race in the North American Series in Road Atlanta next weekend. I'm very much looking forward to being there, and of course our UK drivers will be racing in their next race weekend at Alton Park. So an awful lot of racing going on. If you love the Ferrari Challenge, we give you lots of opportunities to enjoy it, that's for sure, Nico.
Absolutely. As we enjoy all our racing across all the regions, the UK, the US, Japan, and obviously here in Europe, and we'll bring a lot of those drivers together for the Le Mans round, which is the next one on our calendar, and well, in support of the 24 hours of Le Mans, or the 24 hours of Le Mans in support of the Ferrari Challenge. However you want to look at it, it's going to be some great racing across those few days at the Zart in France, and we enjoy our qualifying session here in Spielberg. For the time being, Roland Hürtner enjoying Sector 2, or taking his car focused around Sector 2, not quite at race pace yet, as all the drivers are still finding grip levels and going through the progression of heating up their tires, and then the quick times are going to come in earnest. We expect times to be roughly in the 131, 132 range from our quickest drivers here, and Giuseppe Romelli is certainly one of those who could be in line for a front row start in the M's. Yeah,
he another driver that has the win has eluded him so far. P2, his best result in the second race in Misano. He will be hoping to go one better, and as you can see, he's done a purple Sector 1, not so brilliant Sector 2, but Sector 3 was good, and his time is a 1:37.689. We do expect the times to be significantly lower than that, as he got the car just a little bit sideways through the Niki Lauda turn number 1. And Giuseppe Romelli, Louis Perescoia Then it's Pino Frascaro, Roland Hurtner, and Kirk Beervold. And Kirk has been something of a real star in the Ferrari Challenge Coppa Shell AM here in Europe, as Pino Frascaro goes P1 through Sector 1, the fastest time that we've seen through Sector 1 so far. By dint of it being purple, it means it's quicker than anybody else. So Pino on something of a mission, or he was. He looks like he's bailed it now. In my opinion, he's slowed significantly, thinking that he's buying himself some track time to come. Is it Kirk Beervold right behind him? I think it might be. Martinus Richter, he goes to the sharp end of the timing screen with a 1:45.50. The driver of the 111 car, of course, a winner last time out in Misano. He took the win in race 2 in Misano. Fair to say, Misano, a very different circuit to this that they are experiencing here in Spielberg in Austria. So Pino Frascaro, I thought he'd bailed in the second sector. Perhaps he hasn't, because it's a personal best for Pino Frascaro, who is currently second fastest. This is the 172 car we're watching of Giuseppe Romelli, who at the moment is on target to increase even his previous best time, and he does that with a 1:33.862. So Giuseppe Romelli taking some 3.8 seconds, Nico, out of his previous best time, proving that, as you alluded to earlier on in our broadcast, that as the tyres come up to temperature and get into their window of optimization, they are able to exploit that to their absolute advantage.
Yes, absolutely. And we're now with Giuseppe Romelli 1:33.862. I don't think that's the end of where we will be come the end of the qualifying session. But as we've seen many times before, the best banker you can have is the best banker you can have. And red flags have occurred.
Yes.
Stoppages have occurred. We don't expect rain to compromise this session, but anything that you have done and which is positive counts certainly as a backup and safety net. So
it's like an insurance policy, really, isn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And Giuseppe Romelli, he is still going. Now, traffic is going to be very difficult, and especially from this exact part on the track, there is very little what you can do as a driver to get out of the way.
Sure.
This may be the last spot on the track where you can let another car by, but as you can see, it's not easy, and Giuseppe Romelli has to take a very different line from which he ordinarily would. And
yeah, it's non-optimal, isn't it? Kirk Beervold did everything he could to get out of the way. But there's only so much tarmac you can use anyway, Nico, and you're right. Giuseppe Romelli's optimum line was de-optimized, but even so, he still improved.
De-optimized. Indeed.
All right.
That's
all right.
The optimal word.
All right.
Sorry, Dave. Giuseppe Romelli, P1, Roland Hurtner improved on his time 1:33.490. That's currently P2. We've still got a few drivers. Stefano Marazzi and Henrik Kemstrup has not made it out of pit lane. As we follow this qualifying session, 8 minutes of the 20 minutes have gone. We still expect better times, more significant times from the vast majority of our entries here in Coppa Shell AM. And one of those is the number 190 car. Roland Hurtner already into P2, but listened in on an interview he did yesterday, and he said...
Forgive me, Martinus Richter has gone to P1, sorry to go. An interview he did yesterday.
Indeed, well done by Martinus Richter, and he said, you know, he's a winner. He always wants to be at the very top.
But the Martinus Richter time got taken away by track limits. Forgive me, I'm really interjecting into your story. Back to your interview.
Fair enough. It is relevant to what we're watching. He said he's a winner and he always expects to be P1. He has found the competition level to be very, very extreme, and that obviously he has to familiarize himself with the car, familiarize himself with the circuits, and therefore he's aiming to be at the very, very sharp end of the races come the end of the season, but acknowledges that it's always a learning curve, and that it's a challenge that he relishes. For the moment, it is P11.
Tommy Lindroth, who I must say has just gone up to P2, and having gone around his Motohiko Isosaki. Tommy Lindroth this weekend, Nico, being coached by none other than Fabian Volvend.
A great couple if there ever was one. Fabian Volvend, obviously a hugely successful and proficient driver in her own right. She will compete in the ADAC GT4 in the 2023 season, but has had great success, race winner and much more here in the Ferrari Challenge.
And if my memory serves me, we'll be racing just next weekend as well. In a certain endurance race, I think.
Possibly.
Yes, definitely. With an all-female team. Anyway, we're digressing. Giuseppe Romelli is P1, Martinus Richter is P2, Tommy Lindroth is P3. Here is Martinus Richter, the fastest foot surgeon known to man, I would suggest. That is his profession. He's a medical professional and a super guy as well as Martinus. And he hails from Nuremberg in Germany, within those wonderful city walls that adorn that really, really rather enjoyable city that I've had the privilege of being at on a number of occasions. And he's currently second fastest. That will not be enough for Martinus. The Mertel Motorsport driver will want more. He's taken one win this year. He missed the first round of the Ferrari Challenge when we launched the season in Valencia in Spain, but came back to it in Misano, and is certainly back to it here in Austria. So Martinus Richter, although this time is not perhaps where he would expect it to be. Let's look at the cumulative time now, Nico. He needs to be on a 1:03, I would suggest, and he's way down on that. It's some 4/10 down. So work to come from Martinus Richter, I would suggest.
Definitely. Watching the times of the likes of Paolo Scudieri and Lisa Clark, both of whom had purple first sector, so going really, really quick. And Martinus Richter, as you say, not on a very quick one, and accordingly dives into pit lane, regroup, get some advice from his driver coach, and then be back out with 8.5 minutes remaining. We assume he'll be back out. Maybe
I would have thought.
He will say, well, I
yeah.
don't know, but certainly on a quick one is Paolo Scudieri.
Yes.
Again, very good second sector, so it's going to be interesting where he will be come the end of this lap, and that is only a few seconds away. P4 for the time being. Will it be P1, P2? It's P3.
Yeah, so it's an improvement from Paolo Scudieri, and he goes to P3 behind Martinus Richter and Giuseppe Romelli. Now, both Giuseppe Romelli and Martinus Richter, Nico, as you pointed out, have chosen to bank or park their cars and bank the times that they've delivered thus far. Here comes Kirk Beervold. Now, Kirk Beervold in the 124 car, he's only been off the podium once in the season so far. He goes to P3 now. He's taken 2 P3s, a race win, and a P5 in the final race in Misano. So Kirk Beervold would like to get back to winning ways, potentially. And at the moment, he's third fastest. It is Giuseppe Romelli, Martinus Richter. Then it is Kirk Beervold. Here comes Tommy Lindroth, then, who's been relegated to P5 at the moment, but has set a personal best through Sector 1. So an improvement here from the Baron Motorsport driver, Tommy Lindroth. We'll see what he can do now, as he's got traffic ahead of him, but probably far enough away from him that it's not going to compromise. And again, it's an improvement through Sector 2, so he's only just under 3/10 down on Giuseppe Romelli's time, Nico. So it's getting very, very close between all the drivers now in Coppa Shell AM qualifying, which is what you're watching live with us here from the Spielberg Circuit in Austria. Here comes Tommy Lindroth, then rounding the final turn. Will he improve from P5 and move himself further up the order? I really rather think so, as he heads towards the timing line, and in actual fact, he doesn't. And that was because he lost effectively time in Sector 1 and Sector 2 because other drivers behind him have gone quicker.
Indeed. It was an improvement in terms of time, but was an improvement in terms of place. Kirk Beervold, he is challenging for that P1. He is currently P3, just 1/10 down on his previous best time, and it is an improvement of 2.5 tenths over his previous time, and that means 1.5 tenths up on everybody, as he is P1. Martinus Richter coming out of pit lane, and this is a driver who is challenging as well, or was challenging on the previous lap, got himself up to P4, and he is not going again. First lap sector wasn't as quick. Paolo Scudieri, meanwhile, is showing purple. Kirk Beervold is going again. So it's with 5 minutes and 47 seconds, still very much to play for in this qualifying session. I still haven't seen Stefano Marazzi and Henrik Kamstrup, incidentally, so a little worrying from those drivers with 5.5 minutes.
Look at Paolo Scudieri here. You said just a moment ago he's improving. Improving is just the word, because Sector 1 and Sector 2 are both purple sectors. He's got Lisa Clark ahead of him now. And Paolo Scudieri then, who's currently P5, will make the run to the timing line now. His target time is a 1:32.491, which has been set by Kirk Beervold. Here comes Paolo Scudieri. Is this going to be a new P1 time? No, it's not. He lost 0.6 in the final sector, Nico.
Yeah, I didn't quite see where that was. I don't think that Lisa Clark needed him too much, but maybe he had to ease up before. Anyway, Martinez Richter, he was relegated to P3 after leading the session earlier. He is going again. He's trying to leapfrog Giuseppe Romelli, who is currently P2, and there we go on board. He is between turns 3 and turn 4. This turn 4 is very, very difficult because it is downhill. It's got the wrong camber, and you can easily slide to the outside, especially in the wet. And the wet is the key word here. It may be wet in the race later on.
That gravel around turn number 4 almost invites you in, doesn't it? It tries to drag the car towards it, you know, and you have to really, really fight to keep the car on the tarmac.
Gravel magnetism. That T-shirt is coming towards a store near you, and Martinez Richter is coming towards the timing line. He is 3/1000ths up on the previous best time of Kirk Beervold through 2 sectors, so that means 2 more turns to go. 1 more turn to go. Right-hander, don't get too far out because that will be track limits. No, he did that perfectly. Just enough momentum, just enough control. 1:32.491, 1:32.565 is an improvement. P2, 7.5/100ths off the pace, but it's not pole position for the time being. 3 minutes, 40 seconds remain.
So we still ride on board then with Martinez Richter, 5th gear, as you can see. Heading to 6th now. This kink on the left-hand side is delineated as a turn. You take it absolutely full chat flat as we now go with Motohiko Isozaki. The Cornes Motoshiba driver is improving. Personal best through Sector 1. Better than anyone through Sector 2. This is Motohiko Isozaki then rounding the final turn, heading for the timing line to break the timing beam. He improves 1 place. He is now just 8/100ths down on P1. It's P3 for Motohiko Isozaki currently. The first 4 drivers are split by 1.5 tenths. That's how close it is. As Martinez Richter is going again. Sector 1 was a personal best. If he can line up Sector 2 and Sector 3, which indeed he is doing as he rounds out Sector 2, Nico, it's quicker than anyone through Sector 2. I can't see a track limits icon across the first 2 sectors that Martinez has driven, and therefore he could be on a good trajectory here to wrestle away that pole position from Kirk Beervold. Motohiko Isozaki is trying to do the same. Here comes Martinez Richter now, heading towards the timing beam. It needs to be a 1:32.491 or less, and it's a 1:32.470, Nico. 2/100ths.
Absolutely, and we've got other challengers. Kirk Beervold trying to respond. Motohiko Isozaki trying to respond. Both of them with purple sector. Tommy Lindroth just 5/100ths off the pace after 2 sectors, also laying down the gauntlet for that final few seconds here in this qualifying session. I'm afraid Motohiko Isozaki, that traffic will have compromised his lap, I fear, but we will see. He's still going strong. He's currently P3. He's still got 1 more chance, maybe even 2 after this one, but that looks like traffic may have compromised this lap, and indeed the final sector wasn't kind to his lap time. Kirk Beervold, he is still going strong, and he has taken back P1, a 1:32.163. That is...
It's quite a margin. It's 3/10, Nico.
Absolutely. Got that one back. And Martinez Richter, I don't know if he's going to be able to respond 1 more time because the current lap isn't quite as good. Tommy Lindroth wasn't quite able to finish the lap that he was on. Kirk Beervold going once again. Motohiko Isozaki not on a quick one. Pino Frescaro is having another go himself. Very good first sector again, and so is Paolo Scudieri. So this is not over. Just under 1 minute remaining. The drama is already building in qualifying. What's going to come in the race if this is going to continue that way?
It's going to be brilliant. This is Kirk Beervold, who we're watching right now in the 124 car. The Kessel Racing driver, Singaporean, is Kirk Beervold, or that's where he lives right now, and he's bailed this lap, Nico. He feels 3/10 is enough of a margin with just 30 seconds remaining on the clock for Kirk Beervold to maintain that P1. One to watch then potentially is Paolo Scudieri, who has just improved and gone up 2 places to P4. That's a jolly good qualifying from Paolo Scudieri, Nico.
Yeah, absolutely. You already said his best position was a P2. The wind has eluded him, but from row 2, that is certainly not a poor position to start the next attempt for that. But I do think that Tommy Lindroth is still on a good one, but he's already 1.5 tenths down after the first sector. So I do think this man, Martinus Richter, is going to be on the front row. But also I think that Kirk Berwald, the other yellow car, is going to be confusing once again on the AMs, among all the yellow cars among the front runners in the AMs. Kirk Berwald looks like he has got pole position in the AMs sewn up.
A brilliant qualifying from that young man. That's Tommy Lindroth. And Paolo Scudieri then, where does he finish? P4. Now, Paolo, who started this season's Ferrari Challenge Coppa Shell AM campaign with the win, of course. And Tommy Lindroth is still going for it here. But his Sector 2 time will have compromised. And I'm not sure that Tommy will be able to improve, but he's still going for it right until the end. And this is the thing, Nico, isn't it? With the qualifying session, it's not over until it's over, and every car has crossed that timing line for the final time. And Tommy Lindroth, being coached by Fabian Volven this weekend, breaks the timing beam, and wow, well done, Tommy. An improvement and up to P4, Nico. So in class, a second row start for Tommy Lindroth. He could be a danger man from there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, Tommy, well driven. Obviously, Baron Motorsport, being an Austrian team and being intimately familiar with this circuit, is not going to be a disadvantage for him. They will have given him the best setup advice and the best advice to race this. And I mean, Fabian Volven's advice, yeah, that's pretty solid.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Also, in terms of body size, they are pretty equal. Center of gravity within the car is going to be very similar. Tommy Lindroth, well done, Fabian Volven.
You're digging yourself a big hole there, boy. Get out of it.
I'll have a coffee with Fabian, and we'll be on good terms. If I'm trying to pick a hole in Kirk Berwald's performance, which is very difficult given he's P1. He did 11 laps on his 7 tires, which is probably 1 or 2 laps too many compared to what he would have liked with other drivers. Giuseppe Romelli, 6 laps.
The only thing I would say to counter your argument is rain is predicted.
Fair enough. It is a possibility.
Yeah.
And as I said, I mean, P1 is the best you can be. I'm just trying to get some extra drama in your anticipation for the race later on. Here is the result for you, Kirk Berwald, Martinus Richter, Motohiko Isozaki, Tommy Lindroth, Paolo Scudieri, Giuseppe Romelli, Roland Hörtner, Lisa Clark, Josef Schumacher, Pino Frascara, rounding out the top 10.
And they were followed up by Louis Perescoia, Christian Windisberger, and then it's Stefano Morazzi and Henrik Kamstrup, who, interestingly, didn't post a time, Nico. So there we are. Lisa Clark looks on then at the timing screen. I think Lisa will be relatively satisfied. She's a feisty racer, that's for sure. And she does a lot of racing, gets a lot of seat time, and is always a joy to watch. So there we have it. Coppa Shell qualifying done for both Coppa Shell drivers and also our AM drivers as well, as we take a super slow-mo of the man that's put it on pole position, Kirk Berwald, in the number 124 car. He's done it and made P1 his own. He will be in receipt of the Rotiform pole position award, but even more critically, Nico, he will be in receipt of the point that you get for pole position for the race. The race is coming up this afternoon, but our first race this afternoon is going to be Trofeo Pirelli from Nico and from myself. Thank you so much for watching qualifying. Please join us for the race this afternoon. And from our production team, who we don't thank enough, big thanks to them as well. We'll see you a little bit later this afternoon. Trofeo Pirelli Race 1.
Bye-bye.